Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. It is a great honor to welcome our next guest. It is Pete Carusone, who is the president of VisionAST. Pete, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thanks, Ted. It's a pleasure.
Pete, I first met you about 3 years ago at a Fixed Ops Roundtable event. We were still in our infancy, and you were starting the discussion way back when about dealership data. It's become a huge topic now at our conferences. And give us a little of the backstory about yourself and why you first became interested in dealership data.
Yeah, absolutely. So I spent about a decade as an operations director for a dealer group that was working with vendors. It was also I always looked at the business from 30,000 feet. I wasn't desking deals, I wasn't writing ROs, but I looked at the total operation and noticed that people weren't really using data. I was starting to look at sales and F&I data and salesperson performance and technician and service advisor performance, and diving into the DMS and spending an inordinate amount of time trying to find that information, and also BDC statistics. And so I handled a lot of the advertising, most of the marketing. So I'm driving all these people to the store, and I really wanted to know what we were doing with them when they got there, and often was somewhat disappointed, but knew no one else was looking at the information I was finding, and tried to format it and worked very hard to format it in a way that I could get managers' attention and say, here's what's going on, here's what you need to focus on. And they hated me more than they liked me, probably, but I just knew the importance of making decisions that way versus just shooting from the hip like a bunch of gunslingers like you see in a lot of dealerships. And making sound data-driven decisions just made sense to me, so I put a lot of effort into it.
A lot of the leaders, the retail leaders here at the roundtable, talk about the importance in making data-driven decisions. One of the ones that comes to mind is Tully Williams from the Nilo Company. He says it's all about the hours. Talk to us a little bit about, because historically, Pete, we've made gut or emotional decisions, in not just in fixed operations but in sales as well. Talk to us about what some results you've seen in being able to make data-driven decisions.
Yeah, I take it almost out of the business world. I was reading something recently that people make decisions from their gut about 50% of the time, despite being presented with information to the contrary. They still have their beliefs. And that's no different in the business world. You have beliefs in certain people, you give benefits of the doubt, you have certain opinions on why things are happening that aren't related to data. But if you're able to, and I'm not saying you get rid of your personality and your emotions completely, you have to have some ability to make gut decisions and use instinct. But when you use data to make those decisions, it eliminates a lot of the emotion that's clouding your vision. Everyone says it, it's a cliche, the numbers don't lie, but they really don't. And when you're training people, even if it's an area of opportunity or improvement that needs to be made using that data, you have a basis for discussing something, and you're eliminating a lot of the emotion to the person you may be addressing in a training situation as well. It's not just your intuition that you're sharing with them or your gut feeling that they may find offensive, but it's like, let's discuss the facts here, and it can be a much more structured and effective conversation.
Your company, VisionAST, you work with dealers, you work with hundreds of dealers today. What are the challenges with having or possessing the data, Pete, and knowing what to do with it and knowing how to use that data?
Well, there's so much data, right? I mean, like I was describing to you, diving into the DMS, and there's so much information there. And, you can almost torture the data into telling you what you want it to sometimes. And having it in a format that is very accessible, quick to access, a good interface, and those key metrics that you're going to measure everyone by equally, makes it useful and effective. When you're trying to digest way too much information, you're taking too much time. you may not take the time to do it, especially in a retail environment. There's so many things to distract you from actually taking the time. So find a way to put it in a format that's 5 minutes a day, half hour a week, whatever you choose to do, no less than that frequently, and make decisions using it and do it in real time. So you're not trying to steer the Titanic in a different direction. You're just kind of making little tweaks to the rudder all day long. And that's where you find some additional success.
So Pete, who at the dealership level would use the data? The way that you present it, would it be the dealer, the general manager? Would it be the fixed ops, the service, the parts managers, all the above? And how would they use it?
All of the above is certainly the right answer. I would argue, where I've seen the most successful operations is when everyone has access to it, whether it's salespeople, F&I managers, uh, service advisors, parts advisors. The more people that have access, it's a competitive business, obviously. So, like a baseball coach doesn't hide everyone's batting average, right? Everyone knows where everyone stands in every statistic, and that drives competition. That drives results in and of itself. No one wants to be the low man on the totem pole. So it's a coaching thing. It's really everyone understands where everyone is at all times. People will seek help even when they know they're not performing up to what some other people are doing. They'll work together to say, hey, what's your secret here? What are you doing that I'm not doing? And it's that transparency that really drives performance across the entire organization.
Pete, there's a lot of tools that have come to the market in the last 2 or 3 years that maybe would have come, in 5 to 10 years that are now deployed now, in service. I think of, things like the technician doing the video MPI and being able to present that and send it directly to the customer, through the service advisor. There are a lot of tools out there that are, being used to increase the effectiveness. Would this complement the use of those as well?
Certainly. So you're driving customers into the store. You're doing the best to provide good customer service, to upsell. You have to measure those results, right? You can. I always would be frustrated at how many tools we would use, whether marketing, generally marketing tools, to drive customers in. Whether you're lowering your price to get them to come in the store because you're a little bit less expensive than the guy down the street, and you spend thousands to drive business that way. Do you measure the business once it comes to the door, and how do you maximize that business? It's with data. It's performance data that you can affect and lift. You get all these customers coming in, and your customer service is great, and the word of mouth is great, so they keep coming in. Are you maximizing those opportunities? And you only know that if you're measuring it against benchmarks.
And you have perfected the use of this data at the dealership level, initially in the front end, on the variable, on the sales side. And now VisionAST is bringing this to fixed operations, to service, and to parts. And, like you mentioned earlier, making decisions from our emotions or guts, now we're going to be more data driven in our ability to do that. What advice would you give to a retailer or a manager who wants to be, that more data driven leader in their decision making?
Well, like I said, I think you have to learn to put your feelings and emotions into a box. Don't bury the box. You still need those, but you have to trust the data to be accurate, which we ensure that it is, and let it tell a story of what's going on. You have something to compare it to. You have a conversation, a focal point to, again, positively train people to perform better. Here's where the store is at. Here's where you're at. And we need to work upon this and these certain areas of opportunity, we'll call it. And it makes for a more structured, a more intelligent, and a more effective conversation among all your staff and management. And everyone is working toward the same goal. When you have actual numbers and goals to chase, as we all know, we certainly are more likely to get where we want to go.
Pete, they say 2023 is going to be a little bit tougher, a little bit more difficult year for retailers. It's been, pretty good the last 12 to 18 to 24 months, especially on the sales on the variable side. A lot of focus right now is going to fixed operations. I mentioned the tools that dealerships are able to use now. Talk to us a little bit about being effective with the data and why it's important to have that and to be able to use that and utilize that in our daily decision making at the fixed operations level.
Well, what's the expression? The best time to fix the roof is when the sun is shining, right? So,
I've heard our friend Brian Benstock say that exact quote.
oh, he
Yes.
does. Okay. Well, I'm quoting a sharp guy, so that's good. Um, so now's the time. I think we're running out of time where the sun is shining. It's going to get a little tougher, but build those good practices and good habits now. And looking at data and analytics in with a frequency that's effective is a habit. You have to build it into your routine. I often use the analogy. Service starts at 7:30. There's already a load of cars in the drive, and you're cranking people through. It's tough to sit down and close your door and look at the data unless it's part of your routine. Every day at 4 o'clock, I look at what happened the day before. That becomes part of your habit, and then you're making decisions on it, and they're never major decisions because you're constantly tweaking rather than, wow, I didn't realize that happened 2 months ago. We got a big problem, and now I got to restructure everything. When you're just making little tweaks, it's easy, and that's the trick, is building good habits.
Everybody, we're talking today to Pete Carusone. He's the president of a company called VisionAST. They have perfected the use of data to help drive data-driven decisions at the dealership level. They're working with hundreds of dealers today. It is now brought over to fixed operations. Pete is a great friend of the Fixed Ops Roundtable and our community. Pete, what are some of the best practices that you've seen with, let's say, your most successful dealer clients?
Truly, I think the best practice is not only the frequency with which you take a look at the numbers, like I've said, but also sharing it with everybody. I just so many groups that we work with, it's a management tool. They don't want everyone to have access. They don't want everyone to see the numbers. But you can't manage what you can't measure, and people need to see where they stand. People want to perform. It's a competitive business, particularly people on some sort of commission or bonus pay plan certainly want to perform, but they may not know if they're performing up to the standard or not, and they want to get better. And how do they get better if they don't really know what they're doing? So the most effective dealer groups that I've seen share the information across the entire board of any producer, sales, service, parts, whatever it is, and they share it frequently and they review it frequently. And it becomes very positive conversations because you're not catching someone or aha or I caught you. It's, geez, we talk about this every week. How are we improving? And it becomes very productive.
I know one of the first things that I do when I go into a dealership to train service and parts is I want to see what the numbers look like before I go in. So for an example, if they're a CDK dealer, I'll ask for that RAP report, that service advisor recap report. And the reason I look for it is because I want to look for things that we're going to coach when we go in the dealership.
Sure.
So I want to see the performance of that service advisor, their customer pay, their hours, all across the board. And I can quickly tell, who the better performing advisors are. And when I go into the dealership, now I've got that information. You drive a lot deeper than that, initial report that a DMS may provide. You go a lot deeper to provide those tools for the leaders and managers. And then, like you ultimately said, the people performing, the technicians and the advisors at the dealership level.
Yeah, what we do, that's a big part of what I find important, is that the ability to cross-reference producers between management, between technicians, between advisors, and look who's working well together. Team building, that's a big part of it, is just who works well together, who doesn't. You may have your perceptions, your gut feeling of who likes each other and who doesn't, but that doesn't mean they're working well together. And when you can cross-reference and look at profit opportunities based on who's working with whom, whether you're addressing the problem between certain individuals or just kind of maybe it's the way you schedule people, because that when these guys are on the schedule with these technicians, things look a hell of a lot better than they do within a different scenario. So just having that visibility and cross-referencing and knowing what's going on among your entire team and building the stronger teams is a big part of what we provide.
Well, Pete, congratulations to you on the success that Vision AST is having. Welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable community now, officially, right? And we look forward to getting our dealers involved with Pete and the work he's doing. Pete, if our audience wants to reach out to you and your team there at Vision AST to start looking at those data-driven decisions and how you can help them, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
VisionAST.com has all our contact information. I am Pete at VisionAST.com or 518-260-6721. Text me, call me anytime. I'll be here.
Everybody, you're going to hear a lot more about Pete Carusone and Vision AST here at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Pete, we look forward to those conversations and learning a whole lot more about our data, what we can do with it. And again, on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, congratulations and thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, Ted. I really appreciate it.
Everybody, Pete Carusone from Vision AST here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you.